Hello, Shekhar. Namaste. See, it's about about 5 minutes after 8. I think Shekhar maybe start.
Namaste, everybody. This is Shekhar Mayanil here, and I am overwhelmed with gratitude. And that is exactly that will be your feeling also towards the end of the talk, towards our Guruji Srikant Sabnis. You will have such a tremendous respect, enhanced respect after this talk for him. So this is that I'm just attempting to understand Bij mantra. He suggested that I should. Uh, is there any correlation or relevance regarding Bij mantra and consciousness and neuroscience and physics and all that? So most of the audience are here physicists. So some of them are medical doctors. Some are into yoga. Some are into geniuses of their own in their own right. So I'm just a very small part of this whole beautiful gathering here. So we just start with a prayer to Lord Ganpati here, and I will not be talking much about Gang today, but maybe with in the next round of our discussion of our Bij Mantra. Bij Mantra is such a huge topic. I've just taken few aspects into it, but then I will have to delve deep into the point where you start to understand what this is all about. This is a warming up session for that. Okay, so thus far we have discussed the following. In our earlier discussion, we have had at least six of such marathon sessions where we had talked about decoding pranayam, dhyana, yoga through the lens of neuroscience. And I'm sure you can go to Sri Yoga in the YouTube Sri Yoga YouTube videos to see all these over there. Decoding pranayam in the light of neuroscience and how pranayam affects various regions of the brain such that the pranas are activated through the breathing, uh, and the real power of breath, how inhalation and exhalation and all that is all about. So decoding the chakras, are they real? Most people like me myself early on uh, this did not want to appreciate the fact that there are chakras. They say, yeah, it's all kind of a unreal thing. When I did research on my own on these chakras personally, actually, genetics of all that and gene arrays and microarrays and all that high throughput genetic analysis, I found that they are real. And of course, Brahmari Pranayam, how this will cope up in the present COVID times and all that. I discussed that. These are all big videos, 1 hour, around 45 to 50-minute videos. Last time I discussed the chakras and colors and mudras in transcending consciousness. So you can go ahead and look up. But now today what we are going to be discussing is what is mantra and its significance. Uh, are pranas and speech intertwined? If we have done pranayam, of course prana, then comes the speech after all that. And how are pranas and speech interrelated? So that's what we will discuss today. What is a Bij mantra and where is its position in the modern science? There is to a, where we have gone from Mooladhara chakra to all the way to Swadhisthana, to Manipura, Anahat, and Vishuddhi, and Agya chakra. After that Sahasra, between Sahasra and Agya, is there anything that supports the the aha experience, right? That is the thing that we will talk about, the insular cortex, which was never discussed in neuroscience. To be very honest with you, if I had never seen in my when I was growing up reading textbooks on neurosciences, I never saw the insular cortex being discussed. It is being much more into limelight in coming in the last maybe 10 years, which is like very surprising to me, that how come that this particular such a fantastic region in the brain is not even discussed. because it is more esoteric in nature, because of scientists do not believe in that aha experience, despite the fact that the most 100% of the scientists are real scientists, not the business world scientists. The real scientists experience aha experience all the time, but because it does not have a printout, so you don't believe in it. But then there is something like that. So there are a lot of people, scientists like myself, who are little off the track. They try to figure out why is it all about and what it is all about. So most of the talk later on would be about this very personal experience that you will appreciate. Okay, the significance of beach mantra and the start of the subjective experience. That is the beauty of in science, in the science that we do normally, the Western science. It is mostly of the objective uh, uh, kind, whereas the science that are developed in India, and the rishis and those great yogis, they were talking about subjective science, subjective experience. And what is the bridge which brings the objective experience and the subjective experience? It is the beej mantra. So beej mantra is the bridge, okay, or the place where, or in fact, the mantras are the bridge. Beej mantras are the way of getting that subjective experience, but mantra itself is a bridge. Okay, and then into transcendence. How does that work? So significance of mantra. Aurobindo, how many people know Aurobindo? He is a genius, another yogi of the lead order. He said that mantra is a word of power and light that comes from the overmind. Overmind is a transcendental. Linda will certainly ascribe to that fact that it is overmind, means Maharshi Mahesh Yogi has already talked about that inspiration at a very higher plane of intuition. And pranas and energies and vital energies are intertwined. The way it is intertwined is just like our Shish- uh, this Ardhanarishwar, Shiva and Parvati. This is how it is intertwined. If Shiva is prana, the Parvati ji is speech. Okay. Now, have you ever experienced that the person who cannot speak, I mean to say, very old people, like somebody who is almost on the final stages, he has no power to speak. Why? Because the pranas are inactive there. Pranas getting low. So if you can speak, there is a prana behind it. And prana is considered the masculine principle in and the speech is the feminine principle. So when the prana and speech are when the masculine and the feminine are combined, that's where the Shiva, the auspiciousness happened. Okay, the prana is formless. The Shiva, a real Shiva, is not the form; it is formless. But what makes it a form is the speech. The basis of form and matter is the speech. So and being and consciousness are sustained by the pranas. Whatever we have, uh, our Guruji talks about, Sriji talks about pranayam. So that pranayam basically is, he is trying to bring in the masculine principle such that it can later on become the speech um, of the highest order. Prana communicates intention and information and life energy, whereas speech is prana in action. Prana in action is speech actually. And speech is the sound created by the prana as it tries to express itself outwardly. And prana is the meaning behind the speech. Whatever you speak, if there is if there is no meaning to it, which means no masculine principle to it, it has no value. So that's the beauty of prana. Prana is the speaker, right? And speech is the instrument of the prana. So it is all intertwined so beautifully. And this particular aspect I have picked out from Abhinav Gupta, one of the unbelievably great masters that lived in Kashmir. And he has almost condensed Shaivism, Kashmir Shaivism, and in his book, he has talked about the origin of mantra, the very essence of how mantra came into being, and he talked about this prana and speech. I'm still reading that book. It is unbelievable. It is not even. It is one of the best books I have ever read, and of course. Yog Vashishta. Yog Vashishta is another textbook on Advait Vedant. So that is also has lot of things that they talk about. So this means that you cannot eliminate, you cannot separate the prana and the mantra and the speech and its role in the mantra, right? The power of breath and the great uh, vital energy comes because of prana, right? Similarly, mantra work to hold and sustain the prana. So prana is necessary to maintain, necessary, and speech is necessary both, and both in turn can be the very essence of the mantra, right? Both are essence of mantra. So mantra is an outcome of Shiva and Parvati, Purush and Prakriti. Okay. So mantra is in turn the expression of prana. Whatever our we engage ourselves 100%, like whatever our prana engages itself into, become the subject of our speech, right? So if whatever we are all the time thinking, when you think, the entire physiology works towards that, right? And when the entire physiology works towards that, that becomes the part of your speech. Because you must have seen people, no matter what you talk about, they will gravitate toward that one particular, eventually that particular thought of the whatever that they are supposed to be talking. You can, in a gathering of 20, 30 people, you can know exactly what this person will eventually come back to talking, because his entire prana is involved in that, in subliminal level, and that becomes the subject matter of his speech. So whenever and whatever we perceive through any of our different senses, we can express through speech. Say for instance, speech can not just the speech can relate what the eye sees. So there is a correlation between the visual system, visual cortex, and the speech. The nose also, whenever we smell something, or the tongue tastes it, or the skin touches it, it has its relevance coming through the speech. All the senses therefore express through the power of speech, apart from which they are without them it is all mute and incapable of articulating themselves. Okay. So speech therefore is a guide of all other senses, right? Through the control of speech we can control all our senses. This means that mantras can help us master, energize, and harmonize all our senses. See, if there is any correlation between, then one can affect the other, right? If the eyes have correlation with speech, then speech can affect what the eyes can see. That this is the power of whenever we talked about affirmation, the positive affirmation, how does that work, is also a part of what we will be talking about today. Okay. The mind is composed of thoughts. The mind is nothing. There is no such physical aspect to the mind. Mind is just the flow of thoughts, right? And the thoughts are of two kinds, either of the past or the future. Mind don't exist in this moment right now. There is no mind, right? Now, these thoughts are based on words and reflect our speech patterns. So, thoughts are the seed of our speech, right? It in the subtle form, thoughts are basically talking to oneself inside without uttering anything. When it comes through mouth, it becomes speech, right? So thoughts are kind of an internal conversation, right? So when somebody says you can, in most of these retreats and all that, you might have seen, in mostly in Buddhist thing, that they say retreat for one week silence, right? So 2 days, people, I have seen people say that it is impossible to even uh, they might have kept their mouth shut, but their internal chattering is constantly going on. So, which means to say that that is the real thing that has to be quelled, actually, not the mental talk is the real deal here. So, how do you go about doing it? So, you either close your eyes, you close your ears. So, eventually, speech will come down, right? So, that's the essence. If we replace this mental speech with Bij mantra, we can transform the energy of our mind. So this is the electromagnetism. The electro is there, wherever electricity is there, magnetism will always be there. Where there is magnetism, where there will be. If you alter magnet, you alter electricity, or vice versa. Same is here. So if you change the mental setup, if you change the speech, if you replace the speech with a Bij mantra which has a power to it, then you can energize your mind in a different way. So that is all the. So this higher speech of the mind is the basis for buddhi, or the higher intelligence in yoga. So when somebody talks about intelligence and not intellect, intellect is not intelligence. In higher intelligence comes with magnetized uh, thoughts, or magnetized mind, through repetition of Bij mantra. It's all constant repetition charges the thing, and how it charges is what we will be talking just very shortly. Okay. So you cannot see your mind, obviously it's not there, so it's just the thoughts, right? And thoughts are both, everything is invisible, right? So if you talk to a physicist or a scientist, they'll say there is no such thing as mind, and there's no such thing as thoughts, because it is not visible. What you can see is I can believe, otherwise everything is not. But then they work on their thoughts, through their thoughts only. They use their thoughts, but still they don't uh, value their existence. So that is the difficulty about with modern science. The mind consists of sound, which carries our memories, emotions, and ideas, and that is how we define ourselves. We define ourselves through sound. Remember that. The power of sound that holds who we are, who we have been, and who we wish to be. It is the power of sound that does all that. If there is no speech, that person has no way to communicate what he is. So that is, it is just not the speech through mouth, but it is the primal sound vibration behind those elements that is necessary. So the primary sound elements are not just present in the speech itself, but it is present in the thing that we hear, we taste. All primal sound vibrations are in all the five senses. So now, mantras are as primal sound can change the nature of mind down to the subconscious level. How they reach subconscious level, the how this. So actually, we'll talk about that particular thing in maybe next talk, where how this the vibration in Sanskrit language, different vibrations of these vowels and consonants help us reach that level deep down into the subconscious level. Is We'll talk about that maybe next time, not today. Mantras can open our inner senses and higher level of the mind that otherwise are very difficult to access. This is a very powerful statement there in Abhinav Gupta and in his writings. The mantras can open our inner senses, not the senses that this is not the senses that we have. This is the outward, the tanmatras, they call it in Yoga Vashist, they call it tanmatras, like that which gives power to these. So if these mantras can reach to that level of deep subconscious understanding. So the basis of Bij mantra or the seed syllable like Om is to carry the divine in both its manifest and unmanifest form, both. So divine in its unmanifest form and divine in its manifest form. This is the key discussion that happened between Einstein and um, Satyen Bose. So I'll talk about that today. So what is this manifest? Uh, when we talk about manifest to unmanifest and all that, how does the so beej word beej itself is seed, right? Seed. So what does seed do? Seed creates. Seed cannot go back to unmanifest. So it is one way direction, a one way street. So from unmanifest to beej, and from beej it cannot go back. It has to go back to go to a tree, which is nothing but the manifestation. So in the beej or in the seed, tree is already unmanifest, right? But once the beej manifests, it becomes a tree. Same is with mantra is the bridge, right? So mantra can go from manifest to unmanifest very easily, and that's why it is called the bridge, right? It is not just the seed, it is the bridge. Whereas the seed mantra can make you go from the body identification or from the duality, which means manifest, to non-duality, which is unmanifest. So this particular thing is known as yogic consciousness or non-duality. So you understand this particular slide. Beej comes, the whole essence of the beej means seed is to make it manifest. Mantras can go from manifest or unmanifest. It can carry energies from either way. It through mantras you can manifest things. Through mantras you can unmanifest things also, right? But the power, the one which is the beej mantra is that which goes towards our higher consciousness. So Tesla said that if we want to the secrets of the universe, things in terms of energy, frequencies and vibrations. This guy is a realized master. I have no doubt about that. What he has been talking about is unbelievable. So this is the opening up new doors of new physics now in this particular age right now. And Tesla talked about it long time ago. Until unless he realized master, he would not talk like this. Now, where is this mantra science or the Bij mantra yoga stand in the modern science parlance? So let's discuss the discussion between Einstein and Satyen Bose. Now, what Satyen Bose said, so what Einstein said that if a particle with a mass m, right? Let me. Oops, sorry. Okay, there's a point. If a particle with a mass m moves with the velocity of light c square, c is the velocity of light square of that, then that particle converts completely into energy. This is called E is equal to mc square. This is the Einstein's, the very power of, the real power of Einstein comes from this equation actually. When a particle with a mass m moves with the velocity of light square, if that particle does not remain a particle, it becomes energy, right? So it is that conversion. Then Satyen Bose wrote to him, he said that, what about if we condense energy, can it become mass? If your equation is true, then condensation of energy should become the mass. What Einstein was talking about is unmanifestation. From the manifest particle, which is a manifest thing, to unmanifest, what if we condense energy of whatever that you are, then that particle should become visible, right? So that is reversal. Einstein talked about E is equal to mc square, but he said, what about the reverse? And that gave birth to another science. And that particular quantum vibration, this is what he was talking about. If you condense quantum vibration, can you make particle? So this is what has led to a totally new science, and at least three Nobel Prize have people have got three top Nobel Prize just of this on this concept, the Bose-Einstein condensation and all that. So what happens is, if a particle is condensed further and further by lowering the temperature, you can make a condensate called Bose-Einstein condensate. So this is a quantum vibration, just the energy, right? But at the same time, since it is a quantum, which means to say it has a potential of either becoming total wave like form, or just the vibrations, or it can go to a particle formation. So here you see the wandering Bose-Einstein condensate. If you really lower the temperature further, right, and this is the condensate that you see. So what comes from, where does this quantum vibration come from, that scientists have no idea. And that is where this particular area of question mark here, empty space, is where beach mantras and everything comes. The yoga comes right here. So this is your wandering Bose-Einstein condensate. This is the formation of Bose-Einstein condensate from nothing to something, right? But at least there is something here. So this is your quantum vibration. It is not 100% pure vibration. It is a quantum vibration. There is a difference between vibration and quantum vibration. So there is little bit condensation. What is the unmanifest of this is the real deal that yoga brings into play. And this is all about your uh, objective science. Now let's talk about this much more simpler way. Let's say there is a solid ice, right? Solid ice is there. If you heat it a little bit, it will become liquid. If you heat it, it will become gas. It will heat further, it will become plasma. If you heat it even further, it will become fermionic condensate. If you heat it further, it will become Bose-Einstein condensate, and it become vibration. After that, science has not been able to track, because it is such a esoteric area where no scientist ventures to go, right? This is a subjective science. So if you condense this back in this formation, if you condense vibration, it will Bose-Einstein condensate. It will become fermionic condensate. It will become plasma. It will further condensing, and it becomes solid. So this pathway is reversible. But where does this come from? This both quantum vibrations come from. It comes from a dark pure energy which is called silence. Raman Maharshi experienced this. In fact, lots of yogis experience this. So this is subjective science that science has not been able to venture into. Whereas all the yogis have been able to go beyond this, right? So that's why I say, where eagles dare, right? These are the eagles. These yogis are unbelievable eagles. So significance of Bij Mantra and the start of subjective experience starts right there. I had talked about this particular thing in my first slide, very first slide, where I had talked about which different areas of the brain are aroused by different chanting of these these Bij Mantras. So if you have attended any of the morning classes of Guruji, you will know what I'm talking about. Lang, Vam, Rang, Yam, Hum, Om. All these mantras are basically to activate different aspects of your brain, which will be uh, organized in such a manner to create a vibration on a particular area of the brain, which is, that's what we call insular area. Insular cortex is the one which gives you that aha experience of transcendence, of transcendental experience, transcending consciousness experience. That particular area is the start. Actually that is the that particular center is the Mooladhara chakra of the Sahasrara chakra. If you make Sahasrara chakra into 7 different chakras, let's say higher levels, that insular cortex is the base or the Moola Adhar for even the, I would say, Sahasrara chakra. So that's what it is all about. So to experience silence, pure silence, you require Yog Shakti, which scientists apparently do not. They are completely oblivious of this whole science, just because they are so stuck up with their own subject, with their objective thinking, that they have completely evaded. I would say purposely evaded, or I don't know, out of sheer ignorance. I have no idea whether which or which is true. If they're real scientists, they would venture into this field and try to figure out what this Yog Shakti is all about. Okay, so Lam, Vam, Ram, Yam, Hum, Om. After that, this is the base of this silence, and at Muladhar, you'll see Ganesh, Siddhi, and Buddhi. This is the start of that. In Swadhisthana, Brahma is the child in his child form with Mother Savitri. Manipura Chakra is Vishnu. Anhat Chakra is Rudra with Uma. Okay, and in Vishuddhi Chakra, Jiva with Adya Shakti, the Mother Shakti, and the and in Agya Chakra, Param Shakti and Sukshma Shakti, both are involved, and in Sahasrara all that is combined, and that leads to total silence. In order to experience this silence, not the closed mouth silence, the real deal, you require a, the entire energy of activations from all different chakras to that point where you can experience this silence. And let me briefly tell you what this particular Lam does. So, pronunciation of this Lam, what it brings a feeling of prosperity and security and community. Vam is a semi vowel. Sham, Sam, and Sam are sibilants, between vowel and consonants. So Vam is a four petal which represent the different four vrittis. Vrittis means content of the consciousness. Okay, so it represents greatest joy, the natural pleasure, delight in controlling passion, and blissfulness in concentration. These are the four vrittis. Alternatively, it can be talked about as dharma, that is psycho-spiritual longing; artha, psychic longing; kama, physical longing; and moksha, longing for spiritual liberation. So these are the four different petals that represent. So when we say it has a four petal, it has six petal, it has 12 petal, it has 1,000 petals. So these are the different vrittis actually it represents. Okay, the energetics is inertia. What is energetics behind that is, uh, at if the chakra is not activated, it will cause high density and inertia. And no, if it is activated, it will be forming. It is the base of the starting of the joy and the grace, right? The who is the deity? Brahma, creator, or you can say Ganpati is also the deity for that. Symbol is yellow and red. The sense of smell comes from that particular thing. And what is the tissue involved in that is muscles. Organ that is controlled by this center is colon, uh, reproductive and excretory system. Now, which is chakra that is involved in this? It is the Mooladhara chakra, and the element, the tanmatras, is smell. The element is earth, and tanmatra is the essential aspect behind the sense of smell. That's what it is. And the motor organs that are involved in are elimination and reproduction, and the body part that are controlled by that is the lower abdomen. And if you are into Ayurveda, then the kapha dosh is coming from the malfunctioning of this chakra. Similarly, vam is basically when this will make you, this will open up the self expression to face change fearlessly and to overcome shyness. How many people know some shy people around? So it is basically this particular chakra is not activated in them, and that's what that causes shyness, and there is a lack of self-expression, and they it's very difficult for them to face changes, new changes. It is very difficult to adapt. So if they pronounce or they chant "Vam," then that particular thing starts. So the six petals are basically bum, hum, mum, yum, and rum and lum. Okay, these are the different petals that are. This vum, when you chant vum, all the six different petals get the different vrittis get activated. Okay, what get activated? Affection, pitilessness, feeling of all destructiveness, delusion, disdain, and suspicion. These are the negative ones, whereas the good ones are the affection. And so these are the couple of things that after chanting this mantra, these are the different things that get activated. Of course, the real power of chakra is Swadhisthana chakra is basically water elements, regulation of that water element. So what is happening? Who regulates the water elements in our body? Kidney, obviously, right? And the different dosha that the earlier dosha was a different one. Here it is a kapha dosha again, right? Uh, that is a, if it is a malfunctioning of Mooladhara chakra, then there is a definitely serious kapha dosha. Whereas this regulates the kapha dosha. Okay. Ram. When you chant Ram, you will be able to stand up for yourself. No matter what the world will say to you, you will be able to stand up and say, this is what you are. And not in addition to that, you will be able to have self control in addition to that. And the 10 petals that are regulated by, or the 10 vrittis that this particular chakra or this particular ram regulates are these: spiritual ignorance, thirst, jealousy, treachery, shame, fear, disgust, delusion, foolishness, and sadness. All these vrittis, or the basically negative vrittis, are overcome when you chant Ram. So, and basically, it is a energy center, the biggest energy place. Even let's say in Tibet, the Tibetan Buddhism basically chant this Ram to create heat in their system. Of course, when Ram is also attached with other other sibilants, right, or other consonants, it makes much more high energy. That is the one which I will talk about later in the next, maybe some other talk sometime. How if you add him, h R, so R is there and H is also there. So if you call hrim, hrum, hung, so that kind of a thing, that how it activates your Muladhara chakra. When even if you say hrim, hrim, so you can feel that the abdomen getting pressed, and that chakra is getting activated like that. So these are the things that bring this particular chakra is purely energy center, actually fire energy, fire of digestion, fire of body temperature, and all that, and it controls the pitta dosha, right? Now yam is heart center, actually it is in the anhat chakra. Yam, this controls the 12 petals. What are the 12 vrittis? When it is when it is activated, actually, mo- I have not basically mention the positive aspect of the previous chakras, those 5 6 vrittis, but just the opposite of that is what it is. So for instance, in this case, the 12 vrittis are good ones. The positive ones are bliss, peace, harmony, the kang, khang, gang, ghang, yang, cham, cham, jan, jham, yang, tan, than, all that. So these are the different. Actually, I did not go to detail out how the kang is basically bliss. When you say Kapi, Hanumanji's name is Kapi. In Sanskrit, Ka is called bliss, actually. Bliss is. So when you say, when Kapi means, when who is drinking bliss all the time. P means Pina, Pijana. Kapi means the one who is drinking, who is reveling in bliss, or who is drinking bliss all the time, is Kapi. Hanumanji is that. So you remember, yeah, I mean, there are the other places where we will discuss Khang. What does Khang, what it, how it connotes to peace, that I will talk about later on. This will be too huge. One chapter, one slide of today's slide can become a talk down the road. Anyway, so bliss, peace, harmony, love, understanding, empathy, clarity, purity, unity, compassion, kindness, and forgiveness. These are all consonants. Remember, in Sanskrit, every word, every letter has, every alphabet has a meaning to it, and that is the way Abhinav Gupta has is marvelously outlined it all. I mean, I can't even comprehend bringing Abhinav Gupta in this talk. Somehow, it is so huge. I'm just giving you this teaser only. So the negative aspect is of all this is chinta, asha, I mean hope, constantly hoping. When somebody is constantly hoping, it is basically they do not accept what is right now, and that's the reason they constantly have this hope. Right? Chinta, anxiety, chesta, which means constantly working, mamata, dambha, vivek, vikalta, vikal means languor, ahamkar, pride, lolta, greediness, absolutely intense greediness, trying to acquire what other has, not just because of hard work. You can be greedy and you can work hard and get your whatever, but in this case, if this chakra is not activated, or it is actually functioning at the lowest throttle, then that person has greediness, which means he wants what the other fellow has, by hook or by crook. So Ravan had this chakra inactivated, actually. So that's why he would grab whatever is elsewhere. If somebody's wife is beautiful, he wants that one. If somebody has a Pushpak Viman, then he wants that one. So that kind of a thing happened with him. Kapatta, hypocrisy, and Vitarka, which means wrong logic and wrong argumentation. completely indecision and wrong argumenting. Anutap, which means regret, constantly regretting. I wish I had done this. I did not know this. All that. This is because of this chakra not getting activated. And of course, the dosha is vat dosha. So anybody who has an extreme vat dosha can have all these or some of these qualities in them, but chanting yam can solve this and get these things, the good vrittis back again. Okay. Hum. Now, if somebody wants to have a voice to express, a good speakers who can communicate in a very short few sentences and their impact has value, that this chakra is highly activated in them. You might have if you read Vivekanand, anything that he has written has power still. And if you listen to his, if you read his speeches, like wow, this person's chakra hung was very strongly activated. Anybody who can communicate and get the matter across in very short sentences and few words, that person's this Vishuddhi chakra, throat chakra, is activated. Now, this is 16 different vrittis in this, which actually it starts with the it is the uh, basis for the om, basically, right? Hum starts with this u and a, o, this so when you say om, it is o. When you say ow, it has more power to om. So that's why when you say not om, that om has more prana shakti attached to it. So remember that one. This particular chakra has it this hum means like it, I don't know whether you have in any of those um, pujas that we do, we have Fat Swaha, right? Vishat Swaha, Swadha. All these are basically the mantra ending. Any mantra which has the ending to it, Anuswar they call it. So these are the the sound syllables that go in all these great mantras. Um, and the it is a vat dosh again. The vat, if this chakra is not activated, it is a pure challenge with the vat dosha. Okay. And the organ that it regulates is lungs and the respiratory center, and the deity is Sadashiva. Now, if you really sincerely, which this is what I have done, that's why it is tough to explain also, but at the same time I'll try my best. If you go deeper into this hum, like soham, right? Hamso meditation, or in kriya yoga, that is what you do this constantly, you will experience this blue light. Now, blue light doesn't happen here. A blue light is what you see it inside the thing, and that's the power of this particular mantra. Now, I'll be talking about Om, which is basically in the next discussion, and of course, the Sahasra Chakra, the Om of the Sahasra Chakra, in the next discussion, because this will require entire topic. What is this dot here? What is this Chandra Bindu? What is this U? And what is this? Well, all that thing I'll explain it much more detail in the next, uh, possibly if Sriji allows me to do that discussion some other time. the whole idea is to get to a point, totally transcend and experience that oneness, uh, non-dual oneness. The Beej mantra has that power to do. That's the whole. That is the essential trajectory that we are headed toward. We started off with yogasans, the pranayam, the yogasans, and different mudras and all that, right? Then you are basically headed towards using the subjective science. The essence of the subjective science is starting with Bij Mantra to a point where you can go to Agnya Chakra and the base of the Sahasrara Chakra to experience this transcendence, right? It's only when you do it, not otherwise. This is just to explain that it is, but the goal is to get to this point where you have total Ras, yeah, this particular ras means juice. The juice does not necessarily come from taste, just the taste bud. Juice also comes from what you see. When you see something so beautiful, like small child laughing, that is ras. If you hear some fantastic note in rag Charukesi, you just see that experience. The aha experience is your is what we are headed for, right? The goosebump moment all over the body. You just the whole the hair stands. The uncontrolled feeling of love, being loved. They call it in Ramcharitmanas. They call it pulkit. Pulkit means it is so it is रोमांचित गदगद हो जाना, that's what it called, right? And unexpected and unexplained tears of ecstatic joy. So it just tears roll out just like that without any reason, and it is not crying tears. It is a very ecstatic joy that happens and the tear come out. It cannot hold itself. The episodic feeling of ecstasy and heightened self-awareness happens when you go lam vam ram yam ham. Sincerely, I'm telling you, sincerely, not theoretically, not trying to understand it, doing it and get to this point, you will experience this spellbound feeling, total spellbound. It is not even funny to experience. You cannot talk about it. And that is exactly what happened in Ramcharit. I'll give you a very small example. Ramchandraji had gone to uh, Sitaji's Janakpur, right, where there was a beautiful garden, and he had gone in the morning with Lakshman to pick up flowers for the puja for his Guruji. Now, Vishwamitra, in the same garden, Sitaji's friend Sakhi had come to pick up flowers, and she saw Ram for the first time, and Ram was like effulgent, and she ran directly to tell Sitaji what she saw. She said, Shyam Gaur Kimi Kaho Bakhani Gira Anayana Nayana Binubani. Means I just saw somebody, Shyam and Gaur, which means little darkish complexion and fair complexion people. I cannot explain to you what they were. Means Gira Anayan means the Vani, the speech is without eyes, and the one which saw cannot speak. So Gira is speech, Anayan means no eyes. Nayan eyes, Binubani, the Nayan which saw, the eyes which saw cannot speak. This is the experience of that spellbound experience which I was talking to you about. This ras, the spellbound, uncontrolled pulkit, gadgad ho jana, it's goosebump experience, aha experience. This is the essence of this particular thing. And Ramchandraji talks about this mama guna gavat pulaka sarira gadgad gira nayana bahanira. Means if somebody, this is also in bhakti. See the all lam vam ram yam ham om, all these leads, this yoga leads to bhakti also. Not just, it is not just the yogis are great devotees also. And how that becomes, Ramchandraji talks about this. He says, Mama guna gavata pulaka sarira gadgad gira nayana bahanira. Means if somebody sings my, when sings my praise means what? when he has seen the transcendence, when he has gone from duality to non-duality, then this happened. Gadgad Gira means his uh, speech is, it's almost impossible to speak, right? And Nayana Bahanira, and the eyes starts to tear up. This is what happens to a great devotee, right? So what part of this is responsible, which part of the brain is responsible for this ecstatic experience? And this particular proportion, this is called insula. I am very sorry to say that I was never taught about this. It is recently I learned about this particular thing, and I said, my goodness, this is the real reason where this whole experience happened. And this is the one. Now you see this. This is the portion. This portion is your Agya Chakra, right? This portion just below, and this is just above it. So this is the different ways of expressing the same thing in different sections. It is trying to show this particular region. It is submerged inside the brain. It is covered by this cortex, cerebral cortex. Okay, and these are the different functions. It has a sensory processing, information processing center. All the sensory information processing happens through this center. There is no other way. All the motor functions and all the sensory function has to go through this processing, without which nothing happens. So it is basically an integration hub for all the inputs. Now it talks about the interoception, means inner feelings of joy and inner feelings of happiness, inner feeling of sadness, every inner feeling which cannot be computed, which cannot be given a printout, if it cannot be seen. This is the reason why scientists were opposed to this, discussing this with, or don't talk about that, because you cannot print out. So this is the limitation of scientists. So anyway, uh, there are different anticipation behavior, avoidance behavior. When you go to an in a room, who to avoid, how do you know? This is who you should gravitate toward. Automatically you gravitate towards some people, not all of them you gravitate toward. What decides this? It is this insular cortex. And most people, who, if this region is damaged for some reason, this all this is basic is affected. Decision process, decision making, uncertainty, all these things happen because of little bit challenge. So if one actually starts with lam bum ram yam hum om, this area gets strengthened further and further, and then decision making is a piece of cake, pure, no problem with decision making. Now suddenly this fellow was absolutely indecisive, and he started doing kriya yoga, and how come he is becoming so decisive? Everything what he touches is just happening. Is because of this center getting activated. Okay, the function of insular cortex is involved in consciousness and linked to emotions and regulation of body's homeostasis, involved in compassion, empathy, taste, all the five senses. Taste just doesn't exist in the tongue. It's everywhere, right? Perception, interoception, interoceptive awareness. If you have a pain else somewhere in the body, or you uneasy feeling, this is the reason which tells you what it is happening. Now, more voxel, Foxel, I would say, not voxel, Foxel based morphometry and MRI on experienced Vipassana meditators. These Lazar and colleagues have found that they have increased gray matter in this insular area. Increased gray matter means very advanced level of intelligence, not just normal intelligence. It's advanced level intelligence which can foresee things in the future without even evidence. So it is a very common quality of all the mystical experience, is a strong feeling of certainty which cannot be expressed in words. They are so certain, and since we have to process their certainty through our our limited intelligence, We don't believe in them, but that's their eureka effect. I mean, that's what it is. Eureka transcends all belief. It is a belief transcendence. That is real intelligence, right? Now, is this portion the base of Sahasra Chakra? Now, Sahasra Chakra is thousand million lotus, petal lotus, right? So, I would say that it is just a window into Sahasra Chakra. I don't say it's a Sahasra Chakra, but it is just a window, maybe a root, maybe the root of or the Mooladhar for the Sahasra Chakra. There are seven different levels of Sahasra Chakra, I suppose. I think that's what it is. So, but at least even if we get there, this is wow. This is a wow experience. Let me tell you one thing. Okay, so here you see this your Agya Chakra, and just above it is this, and this has input from all the parts of the brain. There is a very few places in the brain which gets inputs from. It sends inputs and it gets inputs from all part of the brain. This one is apparently I'm most fascinating part. Even if if somebody is trying to establish a career in neuroscience, advanced neuroscience, I think um, insular cortex is the one. And mechanics of Beej mantra I will talk about in the next discussion, if I am given on the permission to do so. And the whole idea is to uh, this particular thing I will discuss later on. And the whole idea is to get to a point where Vishnu, in Santa Tukaram in Marathi, he gave one abhang, a beautiful abhang. Vishnu Maya Jaga, Vishnu Maya Jaga, Vishnu Maya Jaga, Vaishnavata Dharma, Veda Bheda Brahma, Veda Bheda Brahma, Amanga Vishnu Maya Jag. So Vishnu Maya Jag means that non-dual existence, right? The essential nature of one who is established in non-duality is non-duality itself. So the one who is essential nature is non-duality, and what is this? That is the dharma, which means the nature of the one who is established in non-duality is non-dual existence, right? What happens there? Duality and delusional is gone, right? So that is where we are headed towards. The whole journey from doing yogasan to pranayam to various mudras, various this, that, everything is headed towards this. What? Non-dual existence and appreciation of that non-dual existence, where there is no duality, no delusion, and everything is auspicious. Thank you. Thank you so much.